This is WKYT This Morning.
Good morning. Welcome to you. Happy Friday. I'm Rebecca Smith.
I'm Bill Bryant. So good to have you with us here on WKYT this morning, and we have a lot going on in our world.
Big news day. The British public has voted to leave the European Union, causing concerns across the globe. We'll see how the markets react.
Also here at 6 o'clock this morning, Lexington's Pride Festival will go as planned tomorrow, and we'll look ahead to what organizers are doing to make sure everyone stays safe.
Also, 3 former Wildcats heard their names called in last night's NBA draft. We'll show you who they are and where they are going to end up just ahead.
It's not a bad start to the day as we've pushed those storms on out of here. No worry about storms the next couple of days. 60s this morning, roadways look pretty good. 86 by the afternoon. It's about the heat this weekend. I'll show you that, maybe even triple-digit feeling outside coming up.
Okay, we'll get that shortly. Let's get right to the news.
Well, the results are in. It is official. The British public has voted to leave the European Union.
In the wake of the decision, Prime Minister David Cameron has announced his resignation, and world markets have been rocked.
This is not a decision I've taken lightly, but I do believe it's in the national interest to have a period of stability and then the new leadership required.
So far, world stock markets have felt the shock from the decision. Kim Hutcherson explains the worldwide financial impact.
The Eurosceptic genie is out of the bottle, and it will now not be put back.
As Leave campaigners celebrated their Brexit victory, global financial markets were in shock. Markets in Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Sydney all dropped immediately upon opening. The value of the British pound fell to levels not seen in decades. Futures dipped in the U.S. and London. Economists say more trouble is in store.
Almost every economist, it's extraordinary to have economists quite as united on an issue as they have been on this one, that the impact of this vote will be to damage the British economy.
The Leave camp insists the turmoil won't last long.
But this is all going to calm down in due course of time. Of course, there's going to be some short-term turbulence whilst everyone gets used to the new reality, and we work out over the course of the next 2 years just what the new arrangements are going to be between the UK and the European Union.
But the European editor of The Economist warns that the UK shouldn't expect new agreements to look like the old ones.
The other countries of the European Union will take it very badly, and they will not want to be generous to Britain in terms of trade arrangements and negotiations for leaving.
I'm Kim Hutcherson reporting.
A good portion of the state was hit hard at some point during yesterday's storms, but the severe threat was arguably highest in Scott County at one point. A large portion of the county was under a tornado warning for nearly an hour. Emergency management didn't receive any reports of a tornado touching down, but heavy rains did create a mess for several folks. Debris
and chaff and hay and trash and logs and everything else. It gets in the fence and you got to clean it out. It makes a mess.
Emergency officials say no injuries were reported as a result of the storm.
We're trying to learn some more about a southern Kentucky business fire that may have been caused by lightning. According to the Central Kentucky News Journal, the fire caused major damage to H&W Sports in Campbellsville. It is unclear at this point if anybody was injured. We've reached out to Campbellsville fire officials. We'll keep you updated on that on air and on WKYT.com. And remember, you can track storms or whatever weather we're having when you're away from your TV with the WKYT Weather Plus Traffic app. Download that for free in the app or Google Play stores. Lexington's Pride Festival will be kicking off tomorrow morning. Thousands expected to attend the 8th annual festival, and security is going to be in full force.
WKYT's Mike Byer is joining us live this morning with more on this year's events.
Good morning, Rebecca. I'm at the Robert F. Stevens Courthouse. This is where Lexington's annual Pride Festival will kick off tomorrow. Thousands of people are expected to fill the streets of downtown Lexington. They'll have plenty to do at this year's festival, from listening to live music to checking out local food vendors. While many will be taking in the sights and sounds of Pride Festival, members from the LGBTQ community and police force are making sure they'll be able to do it in the safest way possible. They recently met to discuss security after the recent massacre in Orlando. They discussed issues like extra security, bringing preparedness, understanding each other's resources, and expanding open communication. Now the Pride Festival begins tomorrow morning and will run all day long. Live in Lexington, Mike Byer, WKYT.
Thank you so much, Mike. The first round of the NBA draft is in the books, and 3 former Wildcats now know where they will be starting their professional careers. Jamal Murray was the 7th overall pick. He'll suit up for the Denver Nuggets. The Suns picked Skal Labissiere, 28th overall, and traded him to Sacramento. He'll join former Wildcats Willie Cauley-Stein, DeMarcus Cousins, and Rajon Rondo. Coach Cal says his former players now have to prove themselves.
Well, I've been there before with guys. I mean, later in the round, and it's hard. It was hard to sit through it. But you know what? The greatest thing, doesn't matter where you got picked. You're in. Now you go prove that you should have been picked earlier.
Tyler Ulis was the 34th overall pick. He will join 4 former Kentucky guards in Phoenix, including former teammate Devin Booker.
And what a record for Coach Cal to be proud of, having so many players go pro. A Franklin County judge says he will likely not issue a ruling before July 1st in Governor Matt Bevin's decision to dissolve the University of Louisville's Board of Trustees. July 1st is the deadline for the university to decide on a budget and a possible tuition increase. Attorney General Andy Beshear has asked the judge to overturn the governor's decision, saying the governor does not have the authority to dissolve the board. But the judge said the dispute is, quote, uncharted territory, and the university will have to continue functioning while the court sorts things out.
A federal judge has ruled against a Letcher County distillery in its trademark dispute against the University of Kentucky. The judge threw out Kentucky Miss Moonshine's lawsuit, ruling that UK has sovereign immunity, protecting them from the suit. Kentucky Miss sued the university over the use of the word Kentucky on clothing. A spokesperson for the University of Kentucky says the ruling recognizes the school's interests in protecting trademark interests. The distillery has not said if it will appeal.
Now, your zone-by-zone forecast with meteorologist Micah Harris.
The rain's long gone, thunderstorms on out of here, but the clouds still holding tight, and I do expect these clouds to continue to move down toward the south and southeast, which means look for sunshine later on. Not a lot this morning as you're waking up, walking out the door. Sun rises here in just about 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll start to see some sunshine really barreling on through later on. And you're even getting that pink sky. Look at London reflecting off of the actual ground. We're getting that here in Lexington, Frankfort, Jackson. Beautiful shot over in Jackson and Breathitt County. Temperatures are in the 60s. No rain this morning, no rain expected this afternoon, as we'll have mostly sunny skies and a few clouds here and there. Mid-80s is actually average for this time of year, so it's pretty nice. We'll take that. Heading off into your evening, you have any events, any ball games going on that were rained out the past few days? If you're heading out to the ball fields, it's actually really, really nice later on this evening. Remember, sun sets at 9:05 later on this evening. Incredible, incredible. Okay, let's talk about your weekend forecast. 92 degrees there on Saturday and 93 on Sunday. Here's the deal with these two. Saturday right there in the lower 90s. Sunday, low to mid-90s, but you add a lot of moisture on Sunday. One, that will give us that small chance of rain. Number two, it's going to bump our heat index, the way it feels on your skin outside. You add the moisture and the temperatures together, and we're going to be roughly 100 degrees on Sunday. Mid-90s is the way it's going to feel on Saturday. I mean, 95, 100 degrees, I think it's all the same. I mean, it's hot, right? And then that humidity really increases once again later on in the weekend. Good looking day on Saturday, not so much on Sunday as the clouds build, and that will give us that small chance of rain. But all the events on Saturday and today, I see no problems except staying hydrated. We look toward next week. We'll get into that pretty active pattern once again as thunderstorms roll on in here. But I just don't see next week like we just went through. I don't see back-to-back-to-back days of strong, severe thunderstorms, but nonetheless, you are in summer. It gets to the heating of the day, and you can get some of these strong storms popping up. So that's really something we're going to be watching out for next week. But the next couple of days, the heat.
Well, and you mentioned hydration and sunscreen, right?
And sunscreen, that's right.
All of the same. You were working on a graphic earlier talking about what's a good summer image, you know? So what do folks think out there, you know?
Pools, lakes, rivers.
Horses, you know, fences.
That's
We saw some good summer Kentucky shots that you're going to be working with. All right, 6:09 is our time this morning.
Give me that nice cold pool. I will take it, you know, poolside.
Right. At least put your feet in, right?
Yeah. Each morning we bring you weather and traffic. Here's a look at what is happening out there on your early Friday morning.
And here first is a look at the region, and it looks good. I-75, I-64, everybody moving along fine. You're good to go there between Frankfort and Georgetown if you're using 460 this morning. Mount Sterling looking clear. No reports of any major problems. Now look at the Lexington-Fayette Urban County Government live drive cam. And here is Newtown Pike at I-75. And as you can see, the big rigs and others moving along fine, sharing the road this morning. No early issues. That's good.
That's always good to hear, right?
It is.
Especially as we go into the weekend.
You got it. And it is Friday morning on WKYT, and we have so much more news on the way. Great to have you with us.
Still to come, news of Britain's decision to leave the EU has shocked global investors and now creating concerns across the globe. Welcome back in. It's 6:13 on your Friday morning. Well, this morning, California firefighters battling a wind-driven blaze that has destroyed dozens of homes in central California.
It's been a tough year already. The fire started yesterday afternoon about 40 miles northeast of Bakersfield. It moved from canyon to canyon, and it consumed everything in the way. Hannah Daniels tells us that the fire crews, all they could do pretty much is watch.
You can feel the heat out here. It's hot.
Fast-moving flames tore through more than 80 homes around Lake Isabella, California in just a few hours. The Kern County Fire Department live-streamed the chaos on Facebook.
I've never been in a wildland fire where I've seen so many homes burned.
Crews on the ground frantically trying to get people out and get control of the blaze.
We didn't know it was going to come this way until it hit over the hill, and it just went so fast.
Morgan Rivers watched her childhood home go up in flames.
It was my grandparents' home. I grew up in that house, and it's not even the things inside of it. It's something you can't replace.
Hundreds of people are under evacuation orders, but some refuse to leave.
Do you live nearby?
I live right there.
Are you ready to evacuate?
No.
No?
I'm keeping my house there.
Get in my car.
Sheila Pratt is frantically searching for her 86-year-old mother, who is celebrating a birthday.
We came back with a birthday cake to find that there's fire all around it, and we grabbed what we could.
The fire has burned nearly 4 square miles, and about 1,000 homes are under threat. Hannah Daniels, CBS News.
Really gives you perspective there when you hear those personal stories, certainly. Fire officials say the power is out and cell phone service is down in the small towns around that fire, adding to all the difficulty.
More rain is on the way for parts of West Virginia, hit hard by deadly flooding. Floods were brought on by powerful thunderstorms Thursday that sparked mudslides and damaged roads. A state of emergency is now underway in more than 40 counties.
Bluegrass musician, legendary Ralph Stanley has passed away after losing his battle with skin cancer. That's according to his family. The 89-year-old was part of the Grand Ole Opry and a member of the Bluegrass Hall of Fame. He got an honorary doctorate of music from Lincoln Memorial University in Harrigan in 1976, leading his fans worldwide to start calling him Dr. Ralph. Ralph Stanley survived by his wife and 3 children and several grandchildren as well.
Walt Disney World has reopened its beaches to guests more than a week after a 2-year-old boy was attacked and killed by an alligator. The beaches are now open from 1 hour after sunrise and till 1 hour before sunset. They will also feature signs and temporary barriers to try and keep guests and others safe. The beaches were closed after 2-year-old Lane Graves was snatched up by a gator from a beach at Disney's Grand Floridian Resort earlier this month.
All right, and certainly there that we're continuing to follow up on there. Our time this morning is 6:17 on WKYT. British voters' decision to leave the European Union has shocked global investors and created some concern across the globe. Tokyo stocks plunged more than 7%, and South Korea's KOPSI tumbled about 4%. Crude oil prices and U.S. futures also took a big hit. The British pound plummeted more than 10% in 6 hours, while the yen surged nearly 4% to the U.S. dollar as investors seeking safety snapped up the Japanese currency. Americans are not buying as many new homes. The Commerce Department says new home sales dropped 6% last month, reversing some of the gains made in April. But sales are still 6.4% higher year to date. And Instagram wants to reach out to users around the world. The social media app will roll out a new translation button next week. Instagram says the button will appear on feeds, stories, and some profile bios. One click, and it can be translated into 23 different languages. Burger King hoping to boost sales with a new colorful food hybrid. Check out Mac and Cheetos. It is deep-fried macaroni and cheese with a Cheetos coating. Analysts say the new item mostly targets teenagers, a demographic in which Burger King has struggled. But that I think Rebecca said might be good. All right. Yeah, I admit it. I thought it might look good too. This may come as no surprise to some of you, but two new Senate reports say that satellite and cable companies are overcharging their customers. The reports significantly call out Time Warner Cable and Charter Communications. In May, those two companies merged. The reports say both companies neglected to pay back their customers after overcharging them. They estimate that Time Warner Cable will overcharge customers by $2 million this year. Meanwhile, Charter has been overcharging its customers by more than $400,000 per month. Both companies say they're working to address the issue. Rebecca?
Well, I'm sure they are. Back to those mac and cheese Cheetos. I don't know about that. Still trying to get, you know, a mental picture there.
Breakfast.
An idea of what that would taste like. WKYT This Morning is just getting started. Thanks for starting your morning off with us. A former NASA engineer has created a working Nerf gun to end all Nerf wars. It's an invention you've been waiting for. You have to see it to believe it.
And we're going to be focusing in on dry weather, number one, but number two, the heat for the weekend. Possible triple digits for the heat index. We'll talk about that coming up next.
Good morning. Welcome back into WKYT This Morning at 6:23. While you slept, some big news happening in the world overnight.
Wow, it is really just earth-shattering, isn't it? A lot of people did not expect this to happen, but it's occurred. British Prime Minister David Cameron has announced he's resigning after Britain voted to leave the EU.
That's what's trending at this hour. Cameron called for the so-called Brexit referendum to take place because he was under pressure from members of his own party. They were partly concerned by a flood of immigrants entering the country.
3 former Wildcats know where they'll start their professional careers. Jamal Murray was the 7th overall pick. He'll suit up for the Denver Nuggets. The Suns picked Skal Labissiere, 28th overall, and traded him to Sacramento. He'll team up with former Cats DeMarcus Cousins and Willie Cauley-Stein. Tyler Ulis was the 34th overall pick. He'll join 4 former Kentucky guards in Phoenix, including former teammate Devin Booker.
All right, Coach Cal with a lot of folks in the NBA now. All right, storms have calmed down, and now it's heat for the weekend. Here's meteorologist Micah Harris.
Yeah, finally we're getting rid of those storms. It's been a 3-day event, but those are on out of here. We don't have to worry about those the next few days. The cloud cover is still hanging around, but I will tell you this cloud cover is moving south and southeast. So southern zones is going to take some time to actually get some sunshine on in where you live, as opposed to central and northern zones where we'll start to see some sunshine here in just the next couple of hours. Frankfurt at 73, Lexington with the clouds overhead, 69. Roadways look good. I'm not seeing any problems whatsoever. And so we go from the 60s to the 80s later on today at 86 degrees. That's actually average, so it's not that bad. We'll take it. And humidity is not really that high, so it actually feels quite nice. And then mostly sunny skies with a few clouds later on this afternoon. Evening ball fields look good. I mean, this is going to be some really nice weather for those ball fields, all those makeup games that you're having to do. Off into the night and into tomorrow morning. Events kicking off tomorrow morning at 69 degrees. It looks good. It's going to be very hot, very humid, guys, for the weekend. That's going to be our focus of the forecast. We're going to talk about possible triple-digit heat indices. I'll show you what that means and also when you can expect that coming up.
Well, I assume it means it's going to be pretty hot around here.
Sounds like it.
But we'll have that coming up shortly.
Get ready for that. Well, many unexpected things can happen on your wedding day, but what about rattlesnakes? That's what happened to these Colorado newlyweds.
A really scary story. The couple was taking the first post-wedding photos in a field when all of a sudden a rattlesnake jumps up and bites the groom on his ankle. The wedding photographer captured the whole incident on camera. Luckily, doctors at the emergency room determined that the snake did not inject any venom. The couple was able to finally make it to the reception only about an hour late. All of the 184 guests who were there were, of course, happy to see them both happy and healthy. But what a story to tell, right?
Maybe it's kind of like rain on your wedding day. It's good luck, right?
Well, let's hope so. Yeah, that's pretty tough start there for them. All right, this next story is sure to bring out the little kid in you.
Okay, a former NASA engineer has created what has got to be the world's largest Nerf gun. This looks like fun. Mark Rober says he created a freakishly big toy to survive the ongoing Nerf wars at his office. It's powered by a compressed air canister that packs 3,000 psi and fires huge goofy darts made out of toilet plungers. Whoa, at 40 miles an hour, that might hurt. That might leave a mark. Rober says when it comes to the office hijinks, it's big or go home.
All right, do it right, huh?
Wow.
It looks like they are there.
That looks like fun.
Yeah, it does. And it's good to have you with us Friday morning on WKYT, and all of our top stories are coming right up.
Yeah, we have a lot more to come. A Versailles couple forced from their home after it caught fire last night. Now firefighters are trying to figure out exactly how this started.
Tonight's Mega Millions jackpot is $363 million, and tomorrow's Powerball jackpot is $203 million. We'll be right back on WKYT This Morning.
This is WKYT This Morning.
Kentucky mornings start here on WKYT. Good morning. I'm Bill Bryant.
I'm Rebecca Smith. I hope you're having a fabulous start to your Friday.
How about that, huh?
Yeah,
Here comes the weekend. Now at 6:30, much of the globe waking up stunned this morning, learning that British voters have decided to leave the European Union. A look at the instant impact, including the resignation of the Prime Minister and financial fallout around the world.
One was picked as projected, another fell, and the third went ahead of schedule. A look at last night's draft as 3 former Wildcats are now in the NBA.
And strong storms caused a mess across several areas of the Bluegrass yesterday. We'll have a look at the damage as cleanup will continue this morning.
Pretty good looking start to the day in terms of no rain falling out of the sky, so there's some good news. Clouds still overhead. Don't expect rain today. We'll see those clouds kind of filter on out as we go through the next 3 to 5 hours. Nice Friday though, 86 degrees, and then it gets very warm for your weekend. We're talking heat index values close to 100 degrees. I'll have that coming up.
And let's get right to the news this morning. A major story around the globe. Voters in the UK delivered a stunning blow to the European Union this morning.
The Brexit referendum came down to the wire. In the end, UK voters split 52 to 48, very narrow, to leave the 28-nation bloc. Tina Krause is in London with the latest.
British Prime Minister David Cameron made a shocking decision to step down after the UK voted to leave the European Union.
I do not think it would be right for me to try to be the captain that steers our country to its next destination.
The UK has voted to leave the European Union.
Initial polls suggested a close race, but voters in Northern England and Wales helped tip the scale in favor of independence.
The sun has risen on an independent United Kingdom.
The Prime Minister called for the Brexit referendum under pressure from members of his party who claim Europe costs and controls too much. Anger over mass immigration fueled the Leave campaign because of the EU's open borders.
It does demonstrate the level of division and anger actually in the country. I think that it really is a wake-up call for Westminster.
Britain's decision to leave the EU is already being felt here and around the world. The British pound plummeted to a 30-year low against the dollar following the news. Back in April, President Obama said a Brexit would put any future U.S.-UK trade deals in jeopardy.
Because our focus is in negotiating with a big bloc, the European Union, to get a trade agreement done. And UK is going to be in the back of the queue.
Britain has been a part of the 28-nation bloc since joining 43 years ago, but formally separating won't be easy. The process is expected to take at least 2 years. Tina Krause, CBS News, London.
President Barack Obama is expected to speak with British Prime Minister David Cameron within the next day on the UK's historic referendum. A majority of referendum voters chose to leave the European Union in what has become known as Brexit. That's short for British exit. Obama was reportedly briefed on the incoming results while traveling to California ahead of an entrepreneurship summit. The referendum results have broad implications for the global economy as well as America's relationship with Europe and Britain.
And of course, there'll be much more coming up on CBS This Morning in just a few minutes at 7. New this morning on WKYT, officials trying to figure out what caused a Versailles church there to catch fire. This happened just after 11 on Amsden Avenue. We're told the fire was contained to the attic at that location, but due to the location, the only way crews could put out the fire was to cut a hole in the roof. This was a home there. Couples say that their dog, as well as all the people inside, did make it out safely. So other than the damage, things are okay there.
Well, the first round of the NBA draft is in the books, and 3 former Wildcats are now knowing where they'll start their professional careers.
In the NBA, a big night for Kentucky once again. WKYT's Lee K. Howard is in Brooklyn, wrapping up draft night.
Well, patience is the word that best describes the night for the Kentucky Wildcats at the NBA draft. Jamal Murray, Skal Labissiere, even Tyler Ulis had to wait a little bit longer than expected to hear their names called. For Jamal Murray, he went 7th overall to the Denver Nuggets, and he told me after he was selected that that's not disappointing at all.
Oh, it's definitely unfair. Just what disappointment in getting drafted number 7. There's no disappointment in getting drafted. And I'm just happy that they selected me, and now I'm eager, speechless.
For Skal, the night began with lottery expectations and finally ended when the Suns picked him 28th overall, then traded him to the Sacramento Kings.
I had to learn how to be patient, kind of tested my patience a little bit. At first I was nervous, but after a while I was just like, God knows what he's doing. It's all a part of his plan for my life. So, when that happened, I was just, as that was happening, I was just, it is what it is. I'm just thankful to be in the NBA now.
Well, I've been there before with guys. I mean, later in the round, and it's hard. It was hard to sit through it. But you know what? The greatest thing, doesn't matter where you got picked, you're in. Now you go prove that you should have been picked earlier.
So overall, the Wildcats had to wait a little bit longer than expected, but it was a big night for Kentucky once again. John Calipari, of course, proud of his guys for being selected. Here in Brooklyn for the NBA draft, Lee K. Howard, WKYT.
All right, Lee K., thank you and well done. And Skal will join former Wildcats Willie Cauley-Stein, DeMarcus Cousins, and Rajon Rondo in Sacramento. Tyler Ulis was the 34th overall pick. He will join 4 former Kentucky guards out in Phoenix, including former teammate Devin Booker. So great job for Coach Cal getting those guys onto the NBA. All right, after a week, or at least several days, full of storms and high winds from time to time, things look to be calmer and hotter to start out the weekend.
Yeah, it's looking very hot, Micah.
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to be in the 90s later on this weekend. For today, we're trying to get the cloud cover on out. Storms are gone, but the cloud cover's still sticking around a little bit. But you kind of see, if you look very closely, and I'll point it out here on the screen, you can see back toward the west. You see this is kind of the darker shade. Darker shade means the clouds are starting to separate, starting to disappear just a bit. But give it another couple of hours, another 2, maybe even to 4 hours down toward the south and southeast. It might take a little bit down there, but we're trying to move those clouds on out, and once that happens, then you'll start to see some sunshine. But right now, the clouds are overhead. It's not hurting anybody. You don't expect any rain. I know you look outside, and just from being there the past 3 or 4 days of storms one day after another, you kind of look outside and see the clouds and say, it's going to rain on me. Not today. 68 degrees there in London. We hit the afternoon at 86, guys. We're going to be talking about those hot temperatures for the weekend, the humidity. Typically, it leads to pop-up thunderstorms, but will we see that this weekend? I'll have that coming up.
Hey, see you then. And some folks across the Bluegrass are cleaning up this morning after strong storms left their mark in several counties. Here in Lexington, firefighters say a house on Richmond Road caught fire after it was hit by lightning. The homeowners say the strike caught their roof on fire. They say it made a loud boom noise. They didn't realize what had happened until their neighbors called, telling them to get out. Firefighters say everyone, including their pets, did manage to get out safely. Also in Lexington, a fallen tree damaged a home on Rosemont Garden in the south end of town. Crews say the tree damaged the roof and a front awning. A portion of Rosemont Garden was shut down briefly. It is now back open this morning. Firefighters say no one was injured inside that home.
Yesterday's line of storms took out several trees in Bourbon County, blocking many roadways. Road crews were able to clear most of the debris fairly quickly. A woman living on Clay Kaiser Road told us she thinks a lightning strike took out her Bradford pear tree.
I heard a big clap like a thunder, and then it just went over, I guess, because I didn't see it. I went out and looked on the back porch, and it was already down.
Well, Bourbon County officials say no injuries were reported as a result of that storm. Well, Lexington's Pride Festival kicks off this weekend, tomorrow morning to be exact.
And thousands are expected to attend the 8th annual festival. Security is going to be in full force. WKYT's Mike Byer joining us live with more on this year's event. Mike?
Good morning, Bill. Tomorrow, the Robert F. Stevens Courthouse Plaza will be filled with thousands of people for Lexington's annual Pride Festival. Organizers expect over 25,000 people to take part in this year's festivities. Those on hand will have plenty to do at this year's festivals, from taking in live music to trying delicious food from local food vendors. There's supposed to be over 80 of them. Those on hand, with the recent tragedy in Orlando, members from both the LGBTQ community and police found recently met. They want to make sure event goers can take in all the sights and sounds in the safest way possible. During a recent meeting, they discussed issues like preparedness, understanding each other's resources, expanding open communication, and bringing in extra security. Now, the festival kicks off tomorrow right here at the Courthouse Plaza and runs all day, a day that is sure to be filled with a lot of emotion. Live in Lexington, Mike Byer, WKYT.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. A candlelight vigil will be held for a southern Kentucky boy who died in a hit-and-run crash earlier this week. 10-year-old Stanley Turner died after being struck by a car in Pulaski County. A vigil for him will be held Monday night at 7:30 outside the Science Hill Post Office. Investigators are still trying to track down the driver who they say caused Stanley's death. They said they want to question a woman driving a red four-door car who was seen in the area around the time of the crash.
Well, the search continues for another hit-and-run driver in Boyle County. It happened Monday night near the intersection of Highway 2168 and US 127 just north of Danville. Deputies say Angela Fox was sideswiped by a maroon car while riding her moped. They say the driver took off and Fox was left with serious injuries.
The person on the moped was laying on the side of the road injured. You know, good citizen's going to stop, make sure they're okay, but I would assume there are other circumstances why they didn't stop. They could have had a warrant, could have been suspended, could have been under the influence of alcohol or drugs. I don't know the circumstances.
Deputies say the vehicle they're looking for should have some front-end damage. We've also learned that Fox may face charges for driving the moped with a suspended license.
And let's see how traffic is moving this morning. Here is Officer Don with a check on live drive traffic. Don, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Had a little trouble on the inner loop of Man-O-War at Boston Road. Turns out that was a stalled car in the right lane, not a wreck that just was cleared, so we're okay there. Looking at our drive times from Nicholasville, it's 14 minutes. Georgetown's 18 right now. Winchester's a 23-minute ride. No collisions to report. Of course, we'll keep you up to date throughout the morning. Now back to you in the studio.
You can get the latest traffic and weather info anytime with the WKYT Weather Plus traffic app. Download that for free in the app or Google Play stores. 6:42, more news coming up on WKYT this morning.
A father's act of love for his son has become a viral sensation. An amazing must-see story just ahead.
And we're trying to get that rain and cloud cover on out of here, and I do expect to get the rain on out of here, but when do the clouds move on out? We'll talk about that and also show you those steamy temperatures for your weekend coming up.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with meteorologist Micah Harris.
Finally pushing the storms on out of here. It's been a while since we've been able to say this is going to be a mainly dry day. And I say mainly dry, not fully dry, because we still have a 10-20% chance of rain in the forecast. A little blip here and there cannot be ruled out, but for the most part, we stay dry. We're starting to get those clouds separating just a bit, central and northern zones, and back toward the west too. Down toward the south, still very thick clouds. It's going to take some time to get them all out of here. But still, for the most part, it's a nice start to the day, 69 degrees. No roadway problems and no rain falling out of the sky. So we're doing all right. 68 degrees there in Breathitt County and far east in southeastern Kentucky. So we go through the day, like I said, about a 10% chance of rain today, which means what? 90% chance that we won't see any rain. Pretty pleasant, 86 degrees. We'll take that, but heading off into your weekend, it's going to be totally different. Watch this. Here's 12 p.m. on Saturday. And this is your feels like temperature. This is your temperature added in with your moisture content. So the humidity and the temperature put together. And this is the way it's going to feel there for the weekend. Saturday, right around 90 degrees, some lower 90s expected. But watch on Sunday. Saturday's mainly dry. Sunday, only a small chance of rain, but it's not about the rain. Look at Frankfurt coming in at 101 degrees. Remember, this is not your temperature. It's temperature, humidity, or moisture put together. All right, so it's going to be very, very humid, very hot this weekend. 97 showing up in Mount Sterling and 98 degrees right now, or once we hit Sunday there in Monticello toward the afternoon. If you have events, just know you're going to be mainly dry, but you're just going to have to take in a lot of water. A nice finish to the work week. We'll take that. Remember, this weekend is all about the heat. Next week, it's all about the storms returning to the forecast, especially as we head off towards your midweek. That's when we start to see rumbles of thunder really on the increase. So today, 86, like I said, 10% chance of rain. That's a small, small chance. It's just basically saying we just can't rule it out. But for the most part, we stay dry today and tomorrow. 91 on Saturday, 93 on Sunday. Remember, the humidity will bump that feeling toward that century mark on Sunday. And then next week, that's when we start to see those temperatures drop, but not because of cooler air. It's because of the rain chances in the forecast, cloud cover overhead, and that will give us the chance of rain, especially there Tuesday off into Wednesday. That's your best bet. It's seeing those storms roll on in. But guys, this weekend's going to be very hot, very humid, a lot of events going on, and a lot of people haven't been able to get out to the ball fields. I've had several parents ask on Facebook and Twitter, when can my kids get out to the ball field, because the past 3 days have just been very stormy. Today is going to be a really nice day later on this evening.
Sounds good. Get those games in, right?
Yeah, good summer activity. Love it.
All right, thank you very much, Mike. It's 6:48 on WKYT.
Well, this next story is extra heartwarming. An 8-year-old Kansas boy who's battling brain cancer is getting a little extra courage thanks to his father.
Yeah, Gabriel Marshall has gone through a lot in his young life, and after a recent surgery left him with a large scar on his head, Gabriel's confidence went to an all-time low. In attempts to raise his son's spirits, Gabriel's father showed an amazing display of love by getting a special tattoo.
As a parent, that hurts to have your child feel like, you know, nobody likes him, you know, he's a monster, everybody's staring at him, they're scared of him, and, you know, and that's not the case.
I didn't like him calling himself a monster because to me, I mean, he's beautiful.
As you see there, Gabriel's father got a tattoo on his head to match his son's surgery scar. The family says it instantly helped their son's confidence, and he's continuing to fight his illness now with a positive mindset. The loving act has now gone viral on social media. It's been shared thousands of times on Facebook, and both of those guys smiling. What about that?
Oh, parents love. I mean, that's awesome.
Oh, love the story. Yeah. 6:49 now on WKYT this morning, rolling towards 7 o'clock on your Friday.
More news. Stay with us.
Coming up, we're in London as the UK votes to leave the European Union and Prime Minister Cameron decides to step down. Plus, will Bernie Sanders endorse Hillary Clinton? We'll ask him as he joins us in Studio 57. More real news coming up on CBS This Morning, next.
Good morning. Welcome back into WKYT This Morning. We are staying on top of Britain's stunning exit from the European Union and the resignation of the British Prime Minister David Cameron. Cameron called for the so-called Brexit referendum to take place, but he was under pressure to do that from members of his own party, partly concerned by a flood of immigrants entering the country.
Back in Kentucky, several counties are cleaning up after heavy storms knocked down several trees. Luckily, no injuries were reported. 3 former Wildcats are now members of the NBA. Jamal Murray, Scala Bissiere, and Tyler Ulis all heard their name called during last night's 2016 NBA draft. Lexington city officials were forced to evacuate the area surrounding a demolition site after the project did not go as planned. Happened near a vacant 4-story building on Lexington Avenue yesterday. The city stopped demolition of the building because the contracting crew did not have the proper equipment. The crew also was not properly conducting the demolition. As a precaution, the city closed the street and evacuated anyone within 300 feet. The city called in a contractor to properly finish the demolition.
There's a story about the bear sightings popping up all across the Commonwealth, including right here in central Kentucky now. A bear was seen around the Kentucky School for the Deaf campus in Danville and other spots around the town there. Kentucky Fish and Wildlife officials say it is not unusual for bears to wander into populated areas this time of year. If you happen to see a bear in a populated area, wildlife officials ask you to call them immediately and be sure to stay away from it. Well, through the darkness, across wet roads, runners and walkers are carrying a torch this morning from Lexington all the way to Somerset. An 80-mile journey started out last night, and it will end at the Pulaski County Relay for Life later tonight. Our camera was there as they got going. Cancer patients, their caregivers, and volunteers passed the torch last night at the Hope Lodge near Commonwealth Stadium.
The torch symbolizes their hope that one day cancer will be defeated, and it represents the hope that each cancer patient needs to defeat their disease. Circuit Judge David Tapp was the first runner in the long relay. He lost his wife to cancer and came up with the idea to have a long torch run that would help kick off Relay for Life. The torch will travel through 5 counties before it eventually reaches Pulaski County today. Sometimes you can give back to a good cause, all while having a good time. Two-parter. The annual Children's Charity Cabaret was held at Heritage Hall last night in Lexington as part of the Children's Charity Classic Week. The event included dinner, music, and a performance by comedian Jeff Foxworthy. Children's Charity Classic says they are able to give back a lot to the community.
We're just spreading a lot of good joy and a lot of goodwill throughout Central Kentucky and helping as many kids as we possibly can.
You'll be able to watch the Children's Charity Classic Golf Tournament tomorrow afternoon at 3 right here on WKYT. It's a safe bet that they'll be drinking lots of water, staying hydrated for the heat.
That'd be a good idea. Lots of our team involved in that. It's a labor of love here at WKYT. And you're right, the heat is on for the weekend.
Yeah, tell us, Micah.
Yeah, and it looks like today will be in the mid-80s. It's actually a pretty nice day in store today. But then the weekend, like you guys were talking about, boy, it really cranks up. We'll be in the low to mid-90s and heat index right there around 100 degrees. 72 there in Frankfort early this morning. We're at 69 in Lexington. Clouds are overhead, but don't expect much rain out of that. And I say much rain. I want to say any rain. Don't expect any rain, but we just can't rule out maybe a couple of sprinkles, maybe a light shower, especially east of I-75 later on. So just keep that in mind. For the most part, we're going to be dry today, 68 degrees there in London. And we'll start to see those clouds separate, and we will get sunshine today. Heading off into the weekend, Saturday, all those events going on, it'll look really nice, but it's going to be very, very warm. We're at 91 degrees. Heat index values low to mid 90s on that day, and then a small chance of rain on Sunday at 93 degrees, but you add in more humidity, and that'll put us right at 100 degrees the way it feels outside on Sunday. So it's going to be a pretty steamy weekend, but all in all, at least we're getting rid of that stormy pattern. I think that's the big news.
Yeah, I think we had a mic open. We heard a little Glenn Fry there a minute ago, right?
Yes, it is Glenn Fry.
It is Friday.
The heat is on, or hot, hot, hot. That's one of those other heat songs there. Nobody is more up to date than you to start your day. Thank you so much for being with us on WKYT. The news continues on WKYT.com.
We hope you have a great day, awesome weekend. Stay cool.
And CBS This Morning is next.